Welcome to The Future is Female, a podcast where beauty and brains are just the bare minimum. Today's episode is especially special because not only is my guest an accomplished professional, she also happens to be my mommy. Hello,
Hi,
Mom.
sweetie. Thank you for having me on your inaugural podcast. I'm so excited about the Futurist Female. Happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. Andrea Walton is a chief people officer, an author, and founder of both Concrete Rose Scholarship Foundation and an HR consulting firm called the Concrete Strategies. She really does it all and somehow still finds the time to be amazing at being my mom. Well, so welcome to the show, Mom.
Thank you, sweetie. Thank you so much. Happy to be here. And I have to watch myself saying sweetie a lot because I know this is your podcast.
You can say it if you want.
Okay.
It's okay. So, for those who don't know you like I do, how would you describe yourself in 3 words?
It's a great question. I would describe myself as resilient,
Mm-hmm.
um, hmm, truth teller, and kind.
Yes.
Hmm.
I totally agree. You are very kind, very truthful. So, what were you like growing up? And were there signs that she would lead in business? And I kind of already know the answer to this because growing up, she told me she wore a lot of brooches in middle school. And if that's not a sign, I'm not sure what is.
You know what? As a child, anytime I think about myself as a kid, I think
Mhm.
about a picture, and we have to insert it because I do have it in my phone of me being 8 years old, and we lived in these projects called Community Arms Apartments in Pasadena, California. Shout out to Community Arms.
Shout out.
And there's a picture of me at 8 in this cute little dress that my mom bought me, and I have my glasses and my little barrettes. And that just really, to me, defines who I am. I am and always will be this nerdy, cute little girl who just happened to grow up into this phenomenal woman.
Yes.
But I'm still like that little girl. But there were signs. I, instead of wearing my own school clothes, would sometimes wear my mom's business suits to school. And they were swallowing me. They were bigger, but I loved wearing suits to school.
Yes.
I loved wearing brooches. I would find brooches from thrift shops. Now imagine, even in the late 80s, early 90s, where hip hop was really taking off,
Right.
I was showing up to school in brooches or shirts that were buttoned up to my neck with my glasses. So there were signs that I took myself very serious, probably
Yes.
sometimes too serious, but I knew from the beginning that I wanted to be in some kind of corporate space and be successful. Me and my sister, Peaches, shout out to Peaches, we would pretend that we worked in an office and we would put towels on our heads and we'd be acting like we're typing. So, there was always this idea that we could become more.
Yes, and you do have to dress for success,
Mhm.
whoever you want to be in,
That's true.
in your life in the
That's
future.
true.
You have to present yourself as that way. So, what's a moment that first made you feel powerful in your career?
A moment that I felt powerful in my career is when I knew that I could tell the truth about my own story in corporate spaces.
Right.
Sometimes or often, especially as women and as Black women, we feel like we've got to hide who we are to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of TikToks and IGs that are like, never tell people who you are. Go to work, come
Right.
home.
I disagree.
I completely disagree with that notion because the more people see you as authentic and human and real and flawed,
Yes.
the more people trust your leadership. And so the moment that I became more powerful is around the time when I released my first book, From GED to MBA, because people at work were now starting to have dialogue. And I was sharing my story about being a teen mom and a high school dropout and going back and getting my GED, getting my undergrad and MBA, and having success. And so being able to weave your real life story into corporate spaces made me feel powerful and made me feel like I didn't have to hide
Mm-hmm.
totally in everything I am.
Right. Because people value authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when it comes to you, you walk into a room, you're 6 foot tall, beautiful, blonde,
You know.
and you're educated.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people might not even know what your story is. They make a lot of assumptions about who you are and
It's true.
about your backstory, and they are, and people I'm sure are intimidated by you as well. So when you give them that version of yourself, of the struggle that you went through to get to where you are, it makes you feel more relatable, and people are like, oh, she's actually just like me.
That's right.
She's
That's
a
right.
human,
That's
and
right.
even though she's my boss and
Yeah.
she's on the executive team, she relates to me and she
That's right.
wants to know more about me
That's right.
because she wants us to know more about her.
Yeah, it's true. I definitely have felt since being more authentic about my own personal story
Hmm.
that it lets people's guards down
Yes.
and they are more open to sharing even their own personal story. And I feel like that's been the blessing of sharing my story is that it allows people and it frees others to share their own story and how they've overcome too.
Yes. So let's get into your work.
Mhm.
What inspired you to start your own HR consulting firm, The Concrete Strategies?
I actually started Concrete Strategies. It was in another phase or another name even before we moved here to the DMV area. I called it Walton HR Consulting
Hmm.
when we lived in Monrovia, California. And so I've always had a desire to share my knowledge about corporate spaces with people often who don't always have permission to be in these spaces.
Hmm.
You don't always see women that look like us at the executive level or even sometimes at the management level. And so I wanted to create a consulting firm that helps small businesses and also provided coaching and executive coaching to up and coming leaders. So I started it back in Monrovia, California, where before we moved. And then it died down because I was, of course, moving here and taking on a new role at my company. And then I decided more recently to bring it back. Now, with 22 years of executive and managerial experience,
Hmm.
it was more important now than ever to bring that voice back. And so I started it a few months ago or changed the name to Concrete Strategies. Concrete, it's www.concrete-strategies.com.
Okay.
And for those that are interested, and I provide executive coaching, I support small businesses. I also created an HR app, which is an HR in your pocket for those that can't afford an HR team, but you need support. And so I am more than my title. I think everything that I've accomplished helps others be their best as well.
Awesome. So what is one lesson that you wish more companies understood about managing people?
That's such an, especially now that is such an incredible question with so many companies and kind of concrete to carpet, right? You have the executives and you have those that are hourly, and this gap in between of really not understanding real issues.
Hmm.
And I think the misconception or the issue is that in many companies, or once you get to a certain level of leadership, somehow you forget how to relate to the concerns and the issues of those that are hourly or blue collar,
Right.
and that's unfortunate because then once you do that, you start making decisions that are about self and
Hmm.
selfishness versus the people that actually drive the organization. Without the people, you don't have a company. Without those that are on the factory lines driving the trucks, you
Yes.
don't have a profitable company. And so I think leaders need to do a better job of getting out of their ivory towers
Hmm.
and coming from behind their desk and spending time and getting to know the employees that are making them wealthy.
Right. I totally agree with you. I think that sometimes when people get to a senior level,
Mhm.
they forget what it's like to not be there. And
Yes.
like you said, they forget how to relate to, the common folk in
Yeah,
the corporation.
that's right.
And it really is about continuing to be humble and keeping yourself from feeling like you're just above someone, and realizing that you need to communicate with those who are the blue collar people within your business because they are the starting point of where it goes up to corporate, like the ladder climbing up to corporate. It goes from blue collar up to corporate, and if they're not good at the bottom, you can't be good at the top either.
100%.
So the name Concrete Rose is so beautiful. What does it mean to you, and why did you create the Scholarship Foundation?
The name Concrete Rose Scholarship Foundation, thank you, comes from a couple of different places. As I mentioned earlier, I grew up in Community Arms Apartments in Pasadena. Concrete, the hood, as some like to call it, but it's where I'm from and it's where I grew up. And the rose signifies the ability to grow and bloom in hard places.
Mm-hmm.
And so I created the Concrete Rose Scholarship because I wanted to help others bloom even coming from hard places. And because of my own story of being a teen mom, it was important for me to reach back. And I think when we talk about, I'm gonna get throw some scripture in here because I'm a
Please do.
believer, that Jeremiah 29:11 talks about God, of course, taking care and making sure that you are successful.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a scripture after that that I think people forget to read, which is once you become successful and God makes sure that you have what you need, you're supposed to reach back to those people who struggled with the things that you struggled
Right.
with and then bring them with you, right? Whatever was your weakness, whatever was your dark space, whatever was the thing that you overcame, you don't just take your toys and go home. You're supposed to go back and help others. And I believe that the Concrete Rose Scholarship Foundation does just that. We're still in the beginnings. It's been around since 2020. It was originally the Andrea Walton Scholarship and changed the name. And I've almost given out 10,000 in scholarships over that time. And my goal is to give out $100,000 in scholarships and pay for full rides for students in the near future. So that's the story.
You're so cool and
Oh,
awesome.
thanks,
You really
sweetie.
are. And also with the rose and concrete rose, I also think it's interesting that Dina Rose Bowl
Yeah,
and
City of Roses.
City of Roses, it's
Yeah,
very interesting
yeah,
that, that also makes sense with
yep.
in that context. So you're also an author. What are your books about and what inspired you to write them?
So I have two books. The first one is From GED to MBA.
Yes.
And the first book really just talks about everything that I've shared, which is coming up in community arms, being a victim of sexual molestation as a little girl, getting pregnant very young at 14, having my first daughter at 15, and really just clawing my way with the help of God and my family and getting my GED, working hard, getting my undergrad, and going back and getting my MBA and starting to kind of just tip my toes into the corporate world. And so that's the first book. The second is called All the Smoke from Pain to Purpose. And it's really kind of a part two to the first book
Right.
because now that I've accomplished success, it also is the dark side, which is I was dealing with, and we were dealing with being victims of domestic violence with my former partner and husband, and so we had to navigate that, and I had to navigate having success and being promoted and making a ton of money while having to deal with domestic violence and protect myself and my kids and make decisions that would get us out of that.
Yeah.
And so if anyone's dealing with domestic violence, whether it's verbal, emotional, physical, financial, there are resources out there, and you can engage with me on social if you need help. But I needed to share that because I know I wasn't the only one going through something so tragic.
No, you're not. And I will include some links for her book and also for resources for domestic violence victims in the DMV area and just all around the US as well. So, time to pivot. I didn't know how to segue. Time to pivot into some mother daughter
Oh boy.
questions. So, what's one thing you learned from me, even though you're the mom?
This is a good question. I hope I don't get all emotional because
I mean, you can if you want to.
my makeup is sad. I believe that you when it comes to my life and what I'm learning from you
Mhm,
is you are not only your own truth teller, but you have created at an early age in your adulthood
mhm,
boundaries that I think I share with you often that I think is just incredible. Women, Gen X women, baby boomer women, I'm just going to speak from as a Gen X, we didn't learn those early.
mhm.
And so the fact that you not only understand as a woman how to have boundaries and how you've learned how I've seen your evolution
Thank you.
about creating boundaries. And so I just love not only how you've evolved, but I continue to learn from you on boundary setting. And
Mhm.
so that's one of many things that I've learned from
Here, you can dry your eyes a little bit. Thank you. I mean, I learned that also from watching you go through what you went
you.
through,
Yeah.
because it was like, even though everything that you've been through, it was unfortunate. Or you're crying. It's okay. It's okay. Everything that you went through was unfortunate. And do I wish that we didn't go through that at some point? Yes. But at the same time, we needed to, because we wouldn't be where we're at right now. And the lessons that I've learned, I would have rather learned them at this age, in my early 20s, well, now
Yeah.
mid. Just turned 25. That's cool. I would have preferred to learn this now than to be older and
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
a lot of things I've seen you go through and other women in my life, in my family, at their age.
That's right.
And, decide at 50, I hate my husband.
Right.
I hate him, and I've never liked him, actually.
Right.
And I want to know more about who I am.
Yeah.
And you can always, there's never going to be a time where you're not discovering yourself and more aspects about who you are. And I just feel like the boundaries that I've learned to set for myself, they're so beneficial to me into knowing who I am right now at an earlier age
Yes.
than later on.
No, so good.
So yeah, I mean, I still learned that from you, just from watching what you went through. And you just be my mom, and I learned lessons from you. Yes. So growing up, what did you hope I'd become, and what do you think of where I'm heading now?
So, out of all three of my kids, Michaela is like the spark plug.
Right.
When I think about Naomi, her older sister, who's more chill, introverted, and then Gregory, who seems to be heading more towards Michaela, but he's 12, so we're
Hmm.
still
He still has
learning.
aspects of Nini.
He still has aspects, but you are like a firecracker, and you've always been that. And now,
Middle child
yeah,
syndrome.
and like just so independent, and so watching you grow up from a baby to now, it's very on brand
Hmm.
to where I see you heading, which is the PR space, using your voice. Like, none of this is a surprise
Right.
based on how you were as a child. But yeah, she was hysterical as a little girl.
Thank you. So, if we had a reality show, what would it be called, and who would be the dramatic one? Even though we already just kind of answered it.
You're the dramatic one. Something around like keeping up, right? Like the Kardashians, like
Yes,
keeping
yes.
up with Michaela or keeping up with our family, because you would definitely be
The Kim K.
the Kim K of the crew. I would be Chris, Avi. But yeah, that's what it would be.
Yeah, I've always wanted to have a Kim K moment where she hit Chloe with her purse, and she was like, "Don't be effing rude," and hit her. I've always wanted to have a moment like that on reality television.
Insert that.
No, I will.
Part of it.
I will. Okay, so now we're wrapping up. What piece of advice would you give to young women carving out their futures right now?
The advice I'd give to young women carving out your futures right now is to try to become clear about where you see yourself. I think once it's just like putting in a GPS and directions in your car. Once you're clear about the end location, then you are very clear about how you'll navigate. If you
Mm-hmm.
get in your car with no GPS on, no directions, then you'll land anywhere, right? There's a quote, and I may butcher it, that basically says, "Without goals, you're gonna hit whatever you try," right? And so I would love for young women to really be introspective here and think about where you believe you can go in your life, in your career, and make the dreams as big as you need them to be. Don't be afraid to make them big. And then once you have that picture, then every decision in your life should lead you to that. And when you have things that come your way that don't connect you to that, it's easy to say no. So be clear about your yeses So then you can also be clear about your no's.
Nice. So where can people find more of you, whether that's for your books, your foundation, or your other businesses?
Yeah, so my socials I'm pretty active on. So I'm on LinkedIn, which is kind of my business side. So my books are there as well. But if you want to connect with me on speaking to any corporate leaders, executives, management team, I'm there on LinkedIn, and she'll put the link here. I'm also on TikTok where I just share inspirational videos. I share, radio and podcast interviews that I do. I'll put this on my page. I also have a professional Instagram, which is Andrea Walton, Andrea Norwood Walton, CPO. And so I'm all over the web if you want to connect. My website for the Concrete Rose is theconcreterosescholarship.com. There's a couple of Concrete Rose companies and organizations, so scholarship has to be in the name. And then my business is Concrete Strategies, concrete-strategies.com.
And last question, what does the future is female mean to you?
That's a great question. I hope you ask that to every guest
Oh,
at the end.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I will.
Um, the futurist female means to me is that I can pass the torch and I know it's in good hands. I know it's in good hands.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with me,
You're welcome,
Mom.
sweetie.
This is Andrea Walton, amazing businesswoman and also an amazing mother. Thank you for watching our first episode of The Future is Female, and we'll see you guys soon.